Hi, Melanie. Thank you for being here with me today. We're going to talk about tone production on the saxophone. So one of the things that I like to think about or ask before we jump into the kinds of sounds we can make is, to you, what words would you use to describe a good tone on the saxophone?
I'd say for me, like, a good tone would be a nice, clean, whole sound, not something that's just kind of like half put effort into, something that you put purpose into.
Well, wonderful words. I love purpose. That's fantastic. And if you think about purpose as being one of the attributes towards our sound, we can start to talk about all the elements that go into giving us a full and well-intended or purposeful tone. So you just said purpose, and obviously behind that, air support is one of those important things that we need for good tone production. When you think about air support, what are the things you typically, like, what comes to mind? How do you produce good air support on the saxophone?
A good air support, I'd say taking a nice deep breath before you play and like take some time and think about how you're gonna make your next move of like
Great.
Make music.
Yeah, these are great answers. Let's do it. Let's do exactly what you just said. Let's just start with a C scale going down. I'm going to start on C, middle C, and go down to our low C. I'm going to take in a big full breath of air, and I'm going to try to support my sound all the way down to that low C. I'll demonstrate, and then I'll have you do the same thing. Your turn. All right, definitely good air support. You fill the horn up well. There's a full sound there. Now let's talk about refining that sound. Just like anything, we can always find ways to refine and just get a little bit better at what we're doing. So let's just map out some of the different possibilities of sound that we can make on the saxophone. And I always like to think about this as a line graph. So I'm going to teach you a concept I think about where right in the middle at 0 is the sound we're trying to make. We have an area where we can make fuzzier sounds, airy, fuzzy sound. We'll call that negative space. And if we move into the positive space, that's more of that buzzy, edgy sound, right? So you've probably heard that maybe from you or from other saxophonists throughout your educational journey, right? You ever have a band director say like, oh, saxophones, you sound buzzy.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you've heard that a lot because it's some of the one thing we have to work to try to get rid of. So I'm going to start where I would call the fuzzy, airy sound on our sound spectrum. You ever hear that sound from you or from a peer? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that a lot from saxophonists. Here's more towards the middle. For me, that's more of a rounder, controlled sound, full, but not out of control, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's more of an edgy, aggressive, sometimes more brighter sound that we can make like this. Do you agree with me in the way I described those sounds?
Yeah.
Good. I want you to guess, what was the difference that I made to get those sounds on my mouthpiece and saxophone?
I'd say probably the like breath support that you use, or maybe like how much air you're putting into.
Believe it or not, I was trying to use the exact same amount of air for each one of those notes or each one of those sounds. What I changed, and this is really cool, I love when I teach this to someone, what I changed was how much reed was in my mouth. So if I don't have enough reed vibrating, it's going to produce an airier, fuzzier sound. If I have too much reed vibrating, we're gonna lose control, it's gonna get edgy, right? So think of it as like an inverse relationship that we have to find balance. We have air, and we have reed. And so if we have a lot of air and not enough reed vibrating, it's going to give us a real airy sound, right? And if we take a lot of reed, we don't have enough air to feed that reed at the appropriate level. So it ends up being more of a buzzy sound. But if you find that perfect balance of the amount of air that you're pushing in and the amount of reed vibrating, we get pure tone. And that's what we're striving to find. We don't want air in our sound. We don't want like buzz in our sound. We want pure tone right in that middle. So let's experiment. Some of the sounds we're going to make are probably not ones we want to keep, but let's experiment on finding where that spectrum is and what gives you the best sound along that spectrum. So I want you to start out by going right to your normal spot on the mouthpiece and play your C scale going down with what, based on where you would normally play, you get your best sound. So let's try that one more time. C scale going down. Fantastic. Now, get set up one more time. I'm going to have you freeze. So play again. At the end, I'm going to have you freeze because I want you to be in exactly the same spot. Try it again one more time.
Like freeze on the
Yeah, you're going
low
to play,
C?
and when you get to the low C, I'll cut you off, and I want you to freeze. I'll say freeze. It'll be easy for you. Freeze, don't move. Take less mouthpiece, slide off altogether. This should give us an airy, fuzzy sound. Let's try it. Good, you agree? That's airy and
Yeah.
fuzzy? Good. Now go back to your normal spot. Good, now take maybe 1/2 centimeter more mouthpiece and play again. Good, so now you saw that's way edgier,
Yeah.
right? So you have the power to make that adjustment all the time. And one of the things I think at where you are in school as a sophomore, one of the things that I remember struggling with was some days I'd play and I'd love my sound. And then I'd have like the same read the next day and I would feel like, what happened? I sound really airy, right? You ever have a day like that?
Yeah, all the time.
Exactly, right? I feel like that's a very common experience. And one of the things to realize is that, well, there's a lot of factors that play into our sound. Temperature can play a factor, the humidity level in the air. I mean, we're making sound and that sound is traveling through the environment around us. All of these things are in constant flux and changing. So what we need to be able to do as musicians, especially at the highest level, we want to sound consistent regardless of atmospheric conditions, regardless of temperature, if it's rainy outside, if it's dry. You know, if I go from really low area of the country to an area that's really high in altitude, I have to sound the same no matter where I go. So I need to know what changes can I make to get the best possible sound. So now you know if you take a little bit more mouthpiece and you sound fuzzy, that's going to open your sound up. Or if you sound really aggressive or your reed feels too soft one day, you can take less mouthpiece to get that best sound. So now I want you to go right to your normal spot and let's listen. Does it sound a little buzzy, a little fuzzy, or is it absolutely perfect? Let's give it a shot. Ooh, I like that change you made right at the end. Did you hear a difference?
Yeah, I did. It felt less kind of airy, as you said, a little bit.
Yeah,
A
you
little
slid
less fuzzy.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it opened up. Let's do that again. Play your C and go down the whole scale and then make the same change. So play it right where you are, your normal spot. Yep, go ahead. Now just slide your upper teeth forward just a hair. Do it again. What did you perceive as different there, tone-wise?
The second one felt a little bit less whole, or no, it felt more whole, whereas the last one felt like there was some like extra little graininess.
Perfect. That's a great way to describe it. That graininess, that fuzziness, that little bit of that we sometimes hear in the sound. And it can be so subtle. But when you move forward just a little bit, that dramatically opened your sound up, and that sounded really good. That to me is one of the most empowering things that I think a young saxophonist could have, is understanding that you've already worked hard to build a good embouchure, and you go and you have your good embouchure and you approach your mouthpiece and you try to get the best sound every day, but you get inconsistent results. Now you know you can adjust that embouchure in certain ways to get your best sound every single day. And that I hope will really help as you have auditions and as you have solos in your band music in the future, that you really sound your best in everything that you do.